Welcome to IGS 10-minute lecture series. This series is brought by the IGS department. IGS stands for Integrated Global Studies. In this series, a professor from the department will give you a mini lecture about her or his research area.
Hello, my name is Robert Taferner. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Integrated Global Studies. Today, I'm going to talk about psycholinguistics and bilingualism. The title of my talk is An Introduction to Psycholinguistic Features of Bilingualism. Here are some key words that may be useful for you, as well as a glossary of terms. So in this online lecture, the fundamental features of being bilingual from a psycholinguistic perspective will be introduced. Topics such as your bilingual profile and functions and modes of language use will be addressed. After viewing this lecture, you'll have a deeper understanding of what it means to be bilingual, which may help you in your future language studies. Here's the lecture outline, and at the beginning I'll introduce some definitions of, what is psycholinguistics, what is bilingualism, and something important called the complementarity principle. In the second part, I'll introduce a personal case study of my own experience being bilingual. So we have part A, describing bilinguals over time. B, language functions, and these are domains or situations and how that changes over time. And then C, monolingual and bilingual language modes. And in the third part, I'll just introduce some questions that you may want to consider. And afterwards, part 4, I'll have I have selected sources that you may want to look into yourself. Okay, so what is psycholinguistics? Psycholinguistics is the field of study that investigates how people process and acquire language. What is bilingualism? The knowledge and use of 2 or more languages in everyday life. The complementarity principle. Bilinguals usually acquire and use their languages for different purposes in different domains of life with different people. Different aspects of life often use different languages. And so let's go to the part 1, personal case study, A, describing bilinguals over time. And this refers to language fluency and language use as a dynamic process of ongoing learning, acquisition, and attrition. The losing of language. And here, let's take a look at this table. A, describing bilinguals over time. On the left side, we have language use, and we can say, daily language use or never using the language. On the top, we have language fluency. There's a low to high level of language fluency. So let's look at when I was 8 years old. I spoke both English and German, and they could be considered my native languages. And I use them every day, and my fluency was mostly equal in both languages. Outside of the house, I spoke English. This is, I was born in Canada, I spoke English outside. In the house, I spoke German with my family. When I was 30 years old, I moved to Japan. I didn't speak Japanese. And so language use, never. And language fluency, low or no fluency, basically no fluency at all. Yeah. My German, I hadn't really used my German for, 20-something years. And so low-level language fluency. I could still speak, listen and speak German, but not very well. Right? And then, of course, my English is my dominant language, and I use that every day as a native speaker. When I was 50 years old, at this point, I'd been in Japan for 20 years. I started to use Japanese every day, mostly with colleagues or people in the office and people in my neighborhood, because I didn't speak English mostly, right? And my German improved a little bit, my fluency improved, but I never used it that much. But I had traveled to Europe many times and used my German over the period when I was 20 years old or 30 years old to 50 years old, right? And of course, my English was maintained as a dominant language. Note that I also studied French, and I consider French my second language. And I studied French in junior high school, but really never used French, and didn't live in an area where French was used. So I just kept it out of this lecture, really. And here, language functions or domains, how they changed over time. So time one, in Canada, 8 years old, my English and German were my native languages. And in English, because I was going to school, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, was used every day, basically. And my German, certainly listening and speaking, a little bit of reading and a little bit of writing. And so time two, in Japan, I'm 30 years old. English and German, you can see they changed a little bit. English as my native language, and I used it for academic purposes as well. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In German, listening and speaking I could still do, but certainly not reading and writing to any level of proficiency. Japanese, I consider it as my third language. I just arrived in Japan, no abilities. Time three, here I'm in Japan, I'm 50 years old, I've been in Japan for 20 years. Still my English is the dominant language. German, maybe, I improved my listening and speaking because I've been to Europe many times and I used the language. But reading and writing, kind of minimal. I did a little bit, but not so much. Japanese, of course, is different. I studied Japanese for many years, and living in Japan, I could use my Japanese language on a daily basis, right? But certainly my listening and speaking were a higher level than my reading and writing. Again, note that French as a second language was omitted from this aspect of language usage. Now, let's take a look at language modes. So we have basically two language modes, monolingual and bilingual. So I have a use of three languages, and I can use them independent of other languages. Say, speak only English, or only German, or only Japanese. In the bilingual mode, it's quite complex. So I could be in a situation where the people in the audience, people I'm talking to, could speak English, German, and Japanese. So I would be mixing the languages, and there's quite a lot of dynamic processes going on subconsciously, as well as consciously when we do code switching and borrowing words from other languages. And note that I can be in a English-German speaking environment, English-Japanese speaking environment, and a German and Japanese environment. And this is where we select the languages that we want to speak in. But underneath that, there are subconscious processes going on, and that are quite interesting to consider. We don't have enough time to talk about it. These are some things going on. Again, French was omitted from this. Questions to consider. So think about your bilingual profile. How's it changed over time? What about language functions and proficiency, fluency, and use? When do you use your dominant languages? And how your languages influence communication when you're in the bilingual mode or when you're in the monolingual mode. Thank you for attending this lecture. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.